And away we go. It is the inaugural episode of Afterburner. And welcome to it. Boomer along with Ryan Pinder. This is new. We one podcast not enough for you, Pinder. We need to do two. Like, when are you going to be satisfied? When will you be happy?
Where are you? What the hell's going on here? I'm in the studios. You're at the club?
I'm out clubbing, getting all hammered. And then a text, hey, we got to do this new post-game thing we're doing. So I had to say goodbye to the ladies. And
Am I not supposed to be the one out at the club? What's going on here? New Year resolution?
No, this is the next evolution in the show. It is Afterburner. After Flames games during the week, we will have a little post-game show for you. It's available for download, available to watch on YouTube and all of that. Of course, it's just more of us to consume, because what's better than more of us? Really?
Honestly, I've been thinking. I haven't come up with much. I could do with less of us on like weekend nights, but more of us on school nights. Probably the best thing we can have. And so here you are.
I wonder how that came to be. So you guys aren't doing Saturday nights, but
so why
but
are you busy
tonight.
Friday nights? Huh.
Yeah. So by all means, we will get everything set up on wherever you get your podcasts, on your YouTube. Subscribe, set your alarms as soon as the episode is done and uploaded. It can be on your phone for your commute to work, for your commute during the day, whatever it is. We will have full
you work a night shift
for you. Yeah,
maybe you work in a morgue, you creepy weirdo. You could listen to it on your night shift.
There's a lot of people. There's got to be at least 2 people listening that work in a morgue.
And aren't creeps, but I've stereotyped them. I'm sorry.
Well, let's get after it. Unfortunately, the Calgary Flames are without a win in 2023.
Oh, what a year.
Terrible year. Here we had such high hopes. They go into Winnipeg, and what was it, 6-0-1, now 7-0-1, the Winnipeg Jets against the Calgary Flames at home in the last 8 games. Tonight, a 3-2 loss in Winnipeg with Canada Life Arena, whatever they call it. I've got it. It's the Canada Life Center. You're right. In front of 14,000. 14,130 in attendance. That feels
light. Isn't it 50 and something there?
Yeah, I don't know. It's got to be minus 40 or 50, right? You got to really want it. Scoreless through 1. They get to the second, pretty much a couple banged, 2 goals in, what was it? 2 and 136 in the third, but the Flames outshoot the Jets. I don't know how I feel about this one. I feel that, did they deserve a better fate? Maybe. I'll go with this. Did they get hellebucked?
They did that as well. And they also got a lot more iron in their diet than I think we've seen teams in this league this year, and Flames teams of years past. They've hit a lot of posts, and that Kadri one is probably still ringing in his ears as he wires one, and that changes the complexion of the game. They never had a lead here. They were always chasing. They tied it twice. I like the overall, if you want to talk process versus result, I really like the process. The result, it's like, the other goalie was the best player on the ice. Markstrom's 3 that got past him, he really couldn't do much about, I don't think. Maybe the Morrissey one, but like, goodness, that's a guy on a heater wide open in the slot.
Broken play too, right? Comes right to him.
Yeah, and the other 2 changed directions right in front of him. You can't blame him on those. But hey, they showed a little intestinal fortitude fighting back twice. It was weird. Early third, it just had this feel of like, oh, okay, they're just going to play for the point and then determine who gets the second point. And they had a 4-on-4 at one point where nothing happened and no one wanted to pressure anyone. And then it was bang, 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 and there's 3 more goals. And then, okay, I throw that out. Take suck. Good thing you didn't tweet that, Pinder, you idiot. 3-2 your final. And Daryl would tell you, Dane, 3-2 league. Huh? If you just listen to Daryl.
Yeah, we'll hear from Daryl in a little bit. It's, man, I in a way I feel for Markstrom because he has been better. We've talked about this on the other show, that he's been actually very good, and still the numbers, it's 3 goals on 23, so that save percentage remains below 900. You just wonder if will he get over that plateau? It's you would think that 900. If you're not a 900 goalie in the National Hockey League, you almost don't deserve to be in the National Hockey League.
I was looking at Hellebuck's career numbers. There's not a season he's close to being at 900. He's well above since he's been established. It's odd, but it's also one of those things where, they're not going to give up 30 shots. If you're going to allow 3, you're going to be sub 900 if you're Jacob Markstrom. And it just happened to be tonight that two of them changed directions within 4 or 5 feet of him. The Gagne one is like, if they try that 100 times,
I know.
How many? Because it's missing the net, and he has to tip it to a spot of the net that's not covered. Like, some nights the hockey gods don't shine on you, and there's been some nights, we talk about those 2 San Jose games are weird. They were tight, and then the Flames got all this puck luck in the third, and they looked like blowouts. They didn't get those bounces tonight.
The one I was kind of stammering around there looking for it, but it was the Huberdeau to Weegar, kind of that backdoor pad save, the right pad save, and then comes the Morrissey goal. I believe that was the one. It came basically right after the Flames really had. They had that. They had the power play, didn't score on it, but they really kind of kept the momentum going. And then Coleman came out on that one line change, and they kept cycling, and then. Just a great. That's how it goes. Big save at one end, and they get the goal at the other.
They scored against the run of play, the Jets, at least in one of those 3 tonight. Like, it was just like, it's going to all Flames, and then next chance in. Sucks.
Nice night for Michael Backlund. He gets one of the goals. 8 shots on net, 50% in the face-off dot. Had the 2-on-1 on the shorthanded chance. Good save there by Hellebuck. He's been solid all year. We've talked about it before. I think maybe about a month ago, that he's almost like a defenseman. When you're not talking about him, he must be doing something right. He's just playing well. If you get him into that third line center spot, and he'll be right at home, and he has been. He looked good tonight.
Yeah, he did. And I thought sort of Coleman, after the really big New Year's Eve, he wasn't playing poorly, but man, he tried some plays that just didn't click. Like, they were having a tough time getting plays to click, and then Backlund scores, and like, well, that's a big one. Also, Zad Dog with a big goal as well, jumping up in the play.
And that was a weird one, because after all of those saves that Hellebuck had made, it felt like maybe that was one he'd want back. It just kind of leaked through his legs there somehow. He was pissed off.
3-on-2, and then Zadorov jumps up to make it the 4th man in, and there's bodies everywhere, and I don't know what his sight lines are, but...
It's the high guy, Ryan. The high guy. He's always the most dangerous guy. You got to watch for the high guy, always.
That's why
sometimes you're the high guy
on Fridays and Saturdays.
Sometimes
watch out for me.
More often than not. Let's hear from the coach, because we're going to talk about the lines. When they lose, the lines are to blame, and when they win, no one talks about the lines. So we'll continue that narrative. But Daryl Sutter from Winnipeg, they'll get on a plane, they'll fly home for one game, and then go off for another road trip. But Daryl Sutter, post game in Winnipeg.
Close game. Played a lot of close games this year. You need one of your big, or somebody who scores, to step up and make a play. Reminds me a lot of the Edmonton game, actually.
You talked about Hellebuck this morning being a big reason why Winnipeg's playing well this year.
Yeah.
Prove you right today?
Yeah. I mean, even when I think we had some momentum in the second period, before they scored, we had 4 or 5 really good shifts in a row, and he made a couple big saves. Difference in the game.
How do you think Markstrom played, particularly there at the end of the first?
But both goalies, I think Marky's always challenged when he plays against Hellebuck.
You talked this morning about your D jumping up and helping out offensively. Is it safe to say Nikita's goal is sort of a template for that, or do you want?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, you do. There's 2 parts of the game, which is first period. We had trouble moving it up, and then after that we were good. But you got to pick your spots, obviously. I think he has a pretty good handle on that.
How do you just assess a defensive performance where all 3 of Winnipeg's goals came from the point? Does that change things?
Got to get in shooting lanes. It's the winger's responsibility. Just let the puck hit in the pads twice.
There you go, courtesy of Flames TV, Daryl Sutter post game out of Winnipeg. The not surprised to hear the guys that need to score needed to come through. Paraphrasing, and I remember when the trade was made for Tyler Toffoli, Daryl said, "Here's a guy. He's won cups, that whole thing." But he said, and doesn't take penalties. Very disciplined, smart guy. Doesn't go into the penalty box. When you're down by a goal in the third and you take it, it was kind of a dumb penalty. I know what he's doing. He's trying to get the puck, but you could tell he was frustrated because he lost that battle. Takes the slashing call, and it's just, you're not. What are the odds? You're going to get that game-tying goal when you're down a man.
That stick didn't ever get into the hands of the Winnipeg player that had it, but he kind of got away with the stick being higher up on the other side of him, and then he brings it around and slashes. I mean, we could do this with every penalty in every hockey game, but to your point, at that juncture of the game, like it's really costly because they had fought back twice from 1-goal deficits, and all of a sudden now you got to kill a penalty and you got 2 less minutes when you're inside the final 5.
Yeah, 17:08 was the time of that penalty, and he knew it too. He knew it. Special teams 0 for 4 are the Jets, and the power play 0 for 2 are the Flames. I thought that, and I said it earlier, I thought the Flames did a good job, if nothing else, of maintaining some momentum from their penalties, from their power plays. There was a time, maybe about 2 months ago, it felt like they would go on the power play, and it was so atrocious that the other team couldn't, just chomping at it. Let's get this thing done. This was so easy, and then they had all the momentum. At the very least, if they're not scoring, at least have some zone time and make them work. And I thought that they did that. If you're looking for some kind of a silver lining.
Yeah, penalty kill's good. That's a dangerous team. I know the Winnipeg was without 5-6 regulars. We talked about it on Barn Burner earlier today. That's a lot of weaponry missing, but there's still a guy well over a point per game on the blue line, one of the best finishers in hockey, and Kyle Connor, and some other guys that aren't shabby either. That's an important couple kills, or 4 of them for the Flames, that allowed them to stay close on a night where Connor Hellebuck was nearly impossible to beat.
I couldn't believe Kyle Connor missed the net.
Yes, of all guys.
The top of the crease.
And he had it. He had the room there. He knew where he was going.
He had it. Yeah, he had it. That puck wouldn't sit down. And Milan Lucic had a chance. That flurry at the end of the first period, he had a chance, and then
he threw
Anderson
it on net.
Fires it wide, and Lewis had a chance for it. They had plenty of chances.
They did.
It's kind of easy to shrug it off as one of those nights, but they did. They had Hellebuck was very good, and they didn't bear down, I guess, enough. But it's a 3-2 game. I mean, we're gonna have.
Is it bearing down, or do you tip your cap? I don't know. Like, if the Flames win this 3-2, was Winnipeg not bearing down enough, or do you tip your cap? Like, it was a 1-goal game. There's a lot of bounces that could have gone either way. You play 82 for a reason. Would you take that effort and that process again against the Islanders on Friday? Yeah. Would you hope to get another bounce or 2? Yeah. Would you hope to get some goaltending that's not as good as what Hellebuck showed? Yeah. And I think those are all probable things to occur.
17 blocked shots, Daryl. They were blocking shots. Yeah, you got to get
those lanes.
So,
defenseman scoring at will, by the way, as well. Dylan redirecting a DeMello shot. Zaddog joining the rush. And then Morrissey. Well, either way, it was the D-man shooting it, or the D-man who it went off of. Either way, it was all D early.
So what do we do with are we back to being sour about the lines? Milan Lucic with Kadri and Huberdeau. It's just so much heavy lifting for the other two guys when Milan is there.
It is, but he looks better there. And it's like, I guess it becomes the question of what's more important. Making Milan not a liability that he appears to be when he plays with the fourth line sometimes, or allowing Kadri and Huberdeau to work with a more skilled player. And I think the fan base's thoughts on that is Milan, it's clear where he's at and which phase of the career he's in. He shouldn't be the priority. You're 2 prized offensive players coming off career years. Getting them a better player to play with might be the priority. I think that's where the fan base is at. But, you know, Daryl motivates in different ways. And I think it would be a natural to swap Ruzicka and Lucic if you wanted to give them a little more skill and puck poise on that line. But then I think they might also be afraid to play that fourth line as much as they have. If it's Zahorna, Lucic, and Lewis, I don't know how much ice that line's going to get. And then we're into if you're only going to play him 5 minutes, why don't you just put Luch in the press box? I'm not justifying what he's doing, but I think Daryl's choosing to spread things out more than load up that line with Kadri and Huberdeau, clearly.
And I can see that. It's kind of like the original point I was making. When it works, it makes sense. And then when it doesn't work, well, how much longer can we try to force this thing, to try and make it work? You think back, I'm trying to remember which game it was, where he makes the little play inside the blue line to get the puck to Kadri. Kadri comes in and scores the big goal. He's still capable of making smart little plays, but it's hard to watch sometimes when he's just lumbering to get back into the play. If you ever turn the puck over,
If he's the high man, it's like, look out. If he's F3, and he gets caught a little deep, that's trouble. But we'll see. I think there's, like we've talked about it since August, this GM wants another top 6 winger. It's pretty obvious where that guy would go right now.
It is. And outside of that, I didn't love the top line, didn't dislike them. I thought they were fine. Lindholm, Dubé, Toffoli. I don't know that they had a really glorious chances. You talked about the goalpost.
Shorthanded chances.
Yeah, and then Backlund, Mangiapane, and Coleman. It's taken all season, but I feel like you're starting to see it with Mangiapane a little bit.
Yep.
Makes the play on the Backlund goal.
At the line, yep.
It's just going to be, he's going to have to scrape for everything to get it going again.
And you know what? He hit a wall the second half of the year last year, and everything he touched went in the first half. Maybe it's just backwards this year. Like, it's not like you're not noticing him. He's in scrums now. He's cross-checking dudes. He's given up 50 pounds and 6 inches too. He is right back in the fabric of the game, and I'm not surprised it's happening next to Backlund and Coleman. Those three were great together, and when Toffoli came over, that kind of messed up that line that had been so good when it was together before he arrived, but they put them back together in the postseason. They came up with a huge goal in that Dallas series that really helped swing things back in the Flames' favor. I think it was like at home game 5, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's hard because you lose the offense from Gaudreau leaving and you lose the offense from Tkachuk leaving, but in a way you've also lost that 20-25 goal guy when he's not scoring too. It's just there's such a drop-off of offense from a year ago.
And like I said, it was a weird thing. It was like he only scored on the road, and it was the first half of the year. And if you look at what he did at home or the second half of the year, he wasn't really – it was a weird season, right? So for him, like, it just wasn't spread out evenly. And so is there something behind that? Is he a streaky guy? Get him streaking again? We'll find out, but at least we've liked him a lot more of late.
Let's do now. You've concocted something. You've got a little something that you like to call. But we're gonna buy it or we're gonna sell it. How hard is this decision?
Hey, this is more of a big picture conversation about a player we watched tonight that we don't get to see a ton. It's not an in-division opponent, but it's buy it or sell it for Derrick Newman of Newman Dean's Real Estate Group with CIR Realty. 403-619-6661. If you need a pal in real estate, now you got one. Buddy of the show, Derrick Newman of Newman Dean's Real Estate with CIR Realty. It's buy it or sell it, Dean. So here's the question for you. I'll make a statement. You agree, you're buying it. If you're not, you're pushing it a bit. You're going to sell it. All right.
All right.
You got the vibe here?
I think I got it. Yeah.
So Connor Hellebuyck, 29 years old. If you can have any goalie in the NHL to build around, Connor Hellebuyck is the goalie you want to build around for the next 5 years. Buy it or sell it. And before you answer, he's 29. Some of the other guys you'd be up in this conversation with, Vasilevsky's 28, Shesterkin's 27, who's only been in the league a couple of years, but has been dominant. And Jake Ottinger finally emerging is just 25. If you want to know where Hellebuyck stands in NHL rankings, Dean, it's incredible. 3rd in games started, tied for 2nd in wins, top 4 in save percentage, tied for the lead in shutouts, 3rd in total ice time. And he's doing it on a team that's missing a couple regulars on the blue line, on a team that wasn't defensively stout last year, that's had a coaching change with their bonus. And I know they're tightening up defensively, but he just looked like ice in his veins tonight. It made me think, like, if you could have anyone, if you're going to a best on best tournament, would this be your number one guy? Buy it or sell it?
So I'm building is it an immediate window to win, or am I building this franchise to be good in 5 years from now or 3 years?
Well, you want to win now. Like, if you have a 5-year window, win as much as you can. Is Hellebuyck the first goalie you go to, or is there someone you like more? The statement is Hellebuck's the guy you want to build around. If you can have anyone, buy it or sell it.
I'm going to sell it only because I've watched Vasilevsky do what he's done in the last 2-3 playoffs. He has been so good. He makes it look so easy. He is so big. He is so mobile. And until Hellebuyck does it, he needs to prove that he can do it, if that makes any sense. And it's maybe a cop-out because it feels like it's the easy one. If you were going more on the kind of a long-term project kind of a thing, you mentioned Jake Ottinger. He's got a .921 save percentage. He's already got 17 wins on the season. And we saw what he did here in the playoffs. I don't know. Is there a better young goaltender? Maybe, but he's
and we wouldn't have said his name a year prior, right? And so
No.
it's like, was that flash in the pan one season for a goalie? And that's kind of where I give Hellebuck a lot of credit. Like last year was a rough year for the Jets, and I don't think they were good defensively. And I think there's a lot of guys cheating the offensive side of the puck. He still had really solid numbers. He's gone all the way to the Western Conference Final on that team that was stacked with Bufflin, with Myers, with Trouba. You know, they overhaul the blue line. There's a lot of hoot at after that offseason. He still put up numbers every single year. Like this guy seems to be a lock to get Vezina votes like 3 out of 4 years. Like I think we maybe don't think of him as elite as he is because he doesn't have Stamkos, Point, Kucherov, Hedman, John Cooper, and that team in front of him. I think it's a conversation to be had. If someone told me he was their guy, I'd be like, okay, you can build the case. Like if you tell me there's a best on best tournament and the USA wins and Hellebuck was the best goalie in the tournament, I'm like, I could see that.
And again, we live in this sports world where it's what have you done for me lately? If you haven't won recently, well, can you still do it, regardless of how much you maybe won? I think because it's Winnipeg, you don't get a lot of attention there. The defense has not been very good. They played the tar out of him last year. He was overworked.
They're riding the crap out of him.
It'd be interesting to see him on a different team, perhaps. But
or to do
numbers. Numbers are great. Numbers are
the
great,
straw
but I'm
poll
still
with
selling.
GMs, right? Yeah, that's fair. And I think I came down to the same decision as you. If there isn't Vasilevsky, I'm probably buying that a little more. And even Shesterkin's kind of won me over because I think New York was a shitty environment last year and he just was ridiculous. Although, again, did we see it in the playoffs enough? Probably not. But I think it's a reminder that if this guy is going to have a normal Hellebuck year, that means they're going to get great goaltending. And so when you go into Winnipeg and outchance the Jets and lose by 1 and hit a post, like, I guess we shouldn't be surprised. That's kind of the tie into tonight's game.
Completely different topic, or not just kind of looking at these names.
Yeah.
Marc-Andre Fleury at some point is going to be done. He legendary first overall pick. Who are the next guys? Who are, I guess you have to put
Sorokin, Ottinger. Those are my 3 young guys I think are studs, and maybe Carter Hart. But it's, again, how do we even know? Like he's basically playing in front of the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, like or behind them on some nights, right? I feel for Carter Hart. That was the worst place he could go to, right?
You had that wave of goalies when Waugh and Brodeur and that era retired, and then more recently you've seen Henrik Lundqvist. I just wonder who we're going to be talking about. Moving forward.
I think it's the Russians. I think it's the Russian guys. I really do. If you think about a best on best tournament, who could they send to it? They could send Shesterkin, Vasilevsky, Sorokin. All 3 of those guys will get Vezina votes. And Canada won of a single guy. Like, who are you taking? Darcy Kemper, Jordan Binnington, Carter Hart. Like, none of those guys they're in the conversation for Vezina. They just aren't. And the Americans will have Hellebuck and Ottinger, and you're like, oh man, like, we don't see these tournaments anymore because the NHL is trying to drive us crazy, but Canada has a distinct disadvantage in net compared to the USA and Russia.
So I need to contact Derrick then.
Well, you're selling, but here's the thing. If you're buying or selling, you can contact Derrick Newman at Newman Dean's Realty with CAR. Give him a call, 403-619-6661. That's buy it or sell it for today's Afterburner. And if you would like the reins, I had one on Zad Dog, but game script didn't really suit it. So I went with the Hellebuck angle.
Speaking of Nikita Zadorov, 19 minutes tonight. One of the 2 goals for the Flames, not quite enough. He also spoke after the loss in Winnipeg tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I think when the game went on, we start finding our legs. We had a couple stretches in the second period, third period when we were dominating at 5-on-5. Definitely, I think there's penalties. They're an experienced team. They play tie hockey, especially at home. So we lost the coverage on all 3 goals, and it cost us today. They score more goals than us. That's the end of the result.
It's another night where you guys put up 30-plus shots, so clearly the volume's there. But is there another gear potentially to get to increase the quality of
Yeah, score from those shots, definitely. Score goals. That's the next gear for us.
This team plays a lot of one-goal games, and I think you can come out on the right side of your fair share of them. But how do you turn nights like tonight so you're standing here talking about a victory after?
Well, I mean, like Daryl was saying, big players, big games. We need when it's tight game, we cannot make mistakes in our zone, and we need to capitalize in other zones. So I think we had enough chances today to score. Their goalie played well, or we didn't execute it well at the end of the day. So I think, like I said, those tight games, yeah, it's nice, it's fun to play, it's fun for fans, but we need to bury some goals and then win some hockey games at the end of the day. So.
And he can say that because he's a goal scorer.
He scored, and he's a big game player.
Zadorov. Yeah, he is. I was thinking of it as I watched him there because he's been here a while now, right? There was the end of the last contract, and now he got the extension and all of that. And when he came in that training camp last year with he and Goodbranson, it was just like, what is going on?
It's like, what is Daryl doing
to get this guy?
Typhoon and hurricane, the natural disasters, or tsunami, or whatever that old wrestling tandem was. Like, I like these two in the alley, but are they going to be able to play? And they both had career years. Like, that was going to be my biter stella with Zadorov. Is this another career year he's having? Because last year was absolutely the best he's had. Ditto Goodbranson.
Because we would have. The thing we would talk about is you got to fill him full of turkey and gravy, Zadorov, to get him. You're riding the Zadorov. It's like a carnival ride. It's like, hang on tight because you don't know where this thing's going. I feel like he's kind of got that out of his game for the most part. I don't remember a lot of games where you're pulling your hair out thinking this Zadorov is driving me crazy. He's
gotten better with it, and I think he's showing a lot more poise with the puck. I think he always wants to skate it, but it's less high risk than it was, maybe. Does that check a box?
I
for
think
you or
so.
not? Yeah.
He's always had that skill, which is why he went in the first round and moved from team to team because the next team thought they were going to be able to get it out of him. And what's he got now? 5 goals in the year?
Well, and yes, it is 5. And
fifth tonight.
What does that quote tell you post game? Like, he's drinking the Daryl Kool-Aid. Yeah. He said it took a while. He's buying in. He said, new guys, it's going to take them time. Took me time. And everything Daryl said, that's what Zadorov said. Big players needed one more goal. Well, how do we get better? How do you finish the scoring chances? We need to score. Like, okay. And you know what? To be fair, it's 5-1-1 in their 7 games, all against divisional foes before this one. They did on most nights going 5-1-1 have that big player with a big goal that helped you get wins. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been 5-1-1. You're not going to roll at a 50-10 pace to finish the year after a mess start. We'll see how they bounce back for the one gamer at home against the Islanders before they're out for 5?
That is the next game for the Calgary Flames Friday. Back at the Dome, they'll take on the New York Islanders, the only visit for the Isles. And then our next show will be on Sunday night. That is following the game in Chicago, game 1 of that 5-game trip. So there you go.
Interesting note on Chicago. Patrick Kane left tonight's contest dealing with a lower body injury, says Luke Richardson, the head coach. Sunday's a ways away, and they're going to be very careful with Patrick Kane. There's no need to rush back when you're Chicago and there's Connor Bedard and there's the trade deadline. And like, you aren't in a playoff push here. We all know where Chicago's at, but that'll be a storyline to watch as the week progresses.
That'll do it for us. Hope you enjoyed it. That is episode 1 of Afterburner. We'll be back on Sunday night. Join us then, would you? See you, buddies.